That's not my forte. So anyway, so shopping for electric contracts in Texas is a lot of fun. I just did this here a couple of months ago by chance, but I've done it, a few times, and I like to dig into the nitty-gritty details, and there are nitty-gritty details out there. And sometimes it's buyer beware, sometimes it's like hidden things. I won't say they're scams, but you have to be careful because of all the hidden things that they do to make things look good. So let me move along here. So there's a lot of confusing websites out there, and none of the websites contain all of the electric companies. There's there's 3 websites here. 2 of them have one has 12 electric companies, one has 6. And the third one has 42. And that's not even all of them. So the thing is, you go to these websites, that's not all inclusive. Some of these I think just have the ones that they're advertising for maybe, and they're using that as a platform to get people to come in, and you're not necessarily finding always the best rates. So and rates change quickly. I did mine during July, and the rates started going down, so I was kind of holding off. And then all of a sudden, a big week of a big heat wave with 105 or whatever those temperatures hit, and all of a sudden, and the electric bills changed. Everybody changed like overnight. You got to watch it, and you have to be careful. But the website that seems to be really good is the one that had the 42 electric companies, powertochoose.org. And again, it's not completely 100% there, but it seems to be probably the most comprehensive of all of them. The other thing, always go back, once you research this on a website like this, always go to the electric company itself to make sure that the rate is still current, because it does change so fast. So there's a couple of things that kind of pop out when you're looking at it. There's a bunch of companies that when you hit 1,000 kilowatt hours in a month, they give you a discount. And then they advertise based on that discount at 1,000 kilowatts, which kind of skews things. So there's, you'll see this term EFL, which is the electricity fax label. That is your best documentation about what's going on in an electric company and what they do. Also, it'll list the rates at usually 500, 1,000, and 2,000 kilowatts. So you kind of get a rough idea from the EFL and kind of where they sit. Early termination fees. If you get a 3-year contract, there's an early termination fee if you want to close out before then, unless you're moving. If you move houses, that's an exception. But if you're not moving addresses, you're going to pay an early termination fee if you terminate early or change. Now, sometimes if the rates drop a lot, it might be worth changing. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to touch base on solar energy, green energy, just to give people an idea that it's out there. If you got solar panels and everything, you need to do a little more extra research. But I'm not going to try to get into all that right now because there's a lot to that. So you look at the website, you look, it's like, what's the cheapest rate? Is it 12.4? Is it 13.7? Well, it depends on your circumstances. What is the cheapest rate? So you have to dig in. Like I said, a lot of the electric companies will give you up to a $100 discount at 1,000 kilowatt hours. Well, $100 and 1,000 kilowatts, that's 10 cents. They're making a 10-cent difference at 1,000 kilowatts. So they're charging a lot when it's outside of that 1,000 kilowatts. Which is great if you're between like 1,000 and 1,200, 1,000 and 1,500 kilowatts. If you can stay in between that spot between 1,000 and 1,500, then that's probably a good deal for you. But in Texas, that's not easy, especially with our summer air conditioning costs and everything. So here's what I did. I kind of put it in. I'm a visual person. I'm also an Excel person. I love Excel and graphs and stuff. So. And these were at the end of August, so like August 28th, 29th, I pulled them, 28th. And so Jexa Energy, Simply Low, I think they're advertising at like 11.9 or 12 cents a kilowatt hour. And so you can see the blue line here, and you see all of a sudden when you hit the 1,000 kilowatts, it drops way down, cheaper than everybody else. And this is where they advertise. So it looks really cheap. But then after the discount, their rates start going back up again because of how much they charge. I mean, in this case, I think it was, we'll see it in a minute, but it's like 22 cents a kilowatt hour. But when they advertise it down here at like 12 cents. So it's like, well, wait a minute, what is it? And I'll show you some more examples.
Jeff, these names that you put on here, are they on here just to show, to assert the point, or are these some of the best companies that you think are out there? Are you comparing best companies?
These are not necessarily the best companies that are out there. I mean, JEXA, if you were able to hit that sweet spot, it probably is the best company out there. Champion is usually one of the cheapest out there. It is, and I think Walt uses that one, right?
I use Champion.
Champion, yeah.
I've been with Champions for a long,
Yeah.
long time.
And it's usually one of the lowest ones out there. So
Yeah.
it's usually, and that's why I compared it, because it's usually one of the lowest out there. It's the green line on Champion there.
Okay.
Well, let me look at it a little bit different. Let's look at that kilowatts.
Yes, I have an all-electric home, so 1,000 is, I'm always over 1,000. And the winter and the summer kill me. So
Yeah. So here's it by the cost. I should have made this bigger. Screen's not as big as I was hoping it was, but so JEXA, they simply load 24-month. This is a 24-month plan. I mean, they're at 22 cents at 750 and 500. They're about 22 cents a kilowatt hour. They have a flat rate plan, which runs about 18, 19 cents a kilowatt hour. And then Champion's down here with their 24-month plan. So JEXA has a flat rate, which is they advertise at 18 cents a kilowatt hour. And Champion has one that they're advertising at 15.5 cents a kilowatt hour. And then this JEXA with the $100 discount at 1,000 kilowatt hours, they advertise at 11.9 cents. If you can stay between the 1,000 and about 1,500, great. That's fantastic. That's a way to go. But if you go over that, it's, if you hit 999 kilowatt hours, the bill is over 200 bucks. Like 220 bucks versus at 1,000, 1 kilowatt hour more, you'd be at 120. That's a $1,000 discount. So yeah, I mean, you can see where like JEXA, they're 22 cents at 750, 21.9 cents at 999 kilowatt hours. But you hit the 1,000 kilowatts, you get a $100 discount, you're down to 11.9. But then it starts creeping up. I mean, by the time you get up to 2,000 kilowatts, they're back up to almost 17 cents. And at 3,000 kilowatts, they're back up to about 18 cents.
So is it possible to monitor your kilowatt usage during the month and see how you're doing?
I have not tried to do that. There's the smart meters that they have put on out there. They're able to do a tremendous amount of stuff with the smart meters these days, and there probably is a way to look at it monthly. I do look at my bill, and I'll show you.
That crazy blue line there, if I was getting near the end of the month and I'm at 990, I'd turn on the oven and let it fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I need to know that.
There are ways, I know there are ways to monitor the usage and everything. I know there's even apps on phones to monitor a lot of that now.
They try to lock you in for 24 months, and if you want to change, now you got the termination fee.
Yeah.
So whatever you gained, you lose by just trying to say, well, I'm going to leave you, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get over 1,000.
So,
at this
yeah.
Well, I'll show you this is my actual electric bill for basically August of last year through July of this year.
Hey Jeff, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what about, we always see on TV about the companies that advertise free nights and weekends for your electricity.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Like Reliant.
Yeah.
whoever it is. I mean, how does that play into?
It's the same kind of deal. I mean, you really need to look at it, but at night, your electricity bill, like during the summer, your AC bill is probably the cheapest at night because the temperatures finally go down, the sun's go down, you don't have the radiant heat and everything. Free weekends, free weekends, kind of the same thing. But there's not a good way to represent that on a graph or anything that I could figure out.
I think it's a marketing ploy.
Well, it's just like the $100 discount. It's a marketing
Yeah.
ploy.
I tend to stay away from marketing ploys if I recognize
Yeah.
it.
And there's all kinds of gimmicks that are coming out. If you have an EV car, your charging is cheaper. And, they give you money back, and then different things. There's all kinds of marketing out there. And there's, like I said, they get free nights and weekends. They have all different kinds of things like that, and they've got it figured out. And you know, when it's 100 during the summer, when it's 100 degrees during the day and the sun's beating down your house, you know, you're gonna, even if your thermostat's turned up a few degrees, you're still gonna be cranking through a lot of electricity in the air conditioning. So, this is my actual bill for a year. You know, last August, almost 2,000, September 1,650, and then October 1,050. And then I'm in the 900s mostly through most of the winter because I'm gas heat. Now that's another thing to keep. If you have gas heat instead, you know, that'll help you out during the winter. You can see where my winter is way low, but my summer is, you know, doubles. And so if you have gas heat, it makes a big difference. But if you have electric heat, you're going to be high all year long. You know, you'll probably drop a little bit in the spring and the fall when it's kind of the medium temperatures. But in the winter, you'll be up, and in the summer, you'll be up for the air conditioning. But when I looked at it against the $100 discount bill, I had 3 months that was cheapest, whereas the straight champion rate, nine out of the 12 months was cheaper. And overall, it was almost $350 cheaper a year going with a flat rate champion than it was for the JEXA with the $100 discount. Now, that's my situation. You know, every situation is going to be a little bit different, but if, you know, now I have, you know, like I said, fairly energy efficient, not a real big house, you know, so I get down to, you know, below 1,000 a lot. So these months here, I mean, they're costing me almost $200. I mean, like here, JEXA was 218, 187, 212, 214, 187, 209, and basically you're talking, you know, that's 20 plus cents a kilowatt hour. It's a lot.
Yeah, those are the months you should have been letting your electric range.
If
fly.
I had the discounted rate, yeah, absolutely. Let's crank this thing up and get the extra 100 kilowatts so I can get the $100 discount. You know. And then this, I know you can't read it, it's pretty small, but this is just the electricity facts label. That's where it talks about, you know, where you get the real information about what's going on. And usually at the top, you know, you can't see it from there. I have a little bit bigger picture next one, but you know, here, JEXA, there's at 500 kilowatt hours, it's 23.3 cents. At 1,000 kilowatts, this one's a little bit later. Like I said, it changes regularly. This when I pulled this, it was later, so it wasn't the original. This is 12.9 at 1,000, and then 17.7 at 2,000. So it actually tells you, you know, how it's going to come out in the bill. You know, roughly 500, 1,000, 2,000. So you can get a rough idea of how it's going and what the price is going to be if you look at, you know, your needs.
Now that's if you used that much for the month. That's what your average per kilowatt would be, or is
yes.
that at that point? That's what you're.
It's going to be at that point. You know, so you can pretty much figure that it's going to be about that same rate as you go through.
Okay.
The $100 discount is what skews it. So if it's 23.3 cents at 500, it's going to be probably around 23 cents all the way up to $9.99.
Right.
And then it's going to drop down to 12.9 cents at 1,000. And then by the time you get to 2,000, it's back up to almost 18 cents. So you can figure that it's just, you know, it's just climbing, and it'll continue to climb, you know, until it gets back up to close to that 23 cent range. It gives you, it kind of can tell you how it's calculated here. They give you the information how it's calculated. I mean, there's some base fees, you know, which is like $4 or something, you know, changes. Every company's a little bit different for the most part, and every electricity delivery is different. Like we have pretty much everybody in the Metroplex is going to be Encore, and so they have some base fees, and they have also a kilowatt hour rate. And then it'll also down further, it'll give you the terms of the contract. It'll say it's 24 months, and it'll tell you what the termination fee is. You know, here it says they'll charge $295 to terminate early. So this is probably the best label to look at and do your comparison. You know, and then you can, if you want to calculate it out like I do in the spreadsheet, then you know you're welcome to do that. But this kind of really spells it out. And so then if you look at a couple of different ones, like here's the example we had in this graph a while ago. So JEXA was 22.8 at 500, 12.4 at 1,000, and 17.3 at 2,000. Whereas Champion was 15.9, 15 and a half, 15.4. So I mean, Champion is actually edging down slightly because you have those monthly fees that's fixed, and the more kilowatt hours, it kind of pulls that overall average down a little bit.
So Jeff, if that's the established rate of 1,000 and you got an established rate of 2,000, but your actual usage is 1,500 right in the middle. So how do they calculate what you're gonna pay? Which rate do they use? Do they use the 1,000 up to 1,000 and then anything over 1,000 they use the 2,000 rate?
No, so that's where you have to go back. I mean, it's complex. So basically, think of it basically as they're, like JEXA in this situation is charging you about 22 cents a kilowatt hour for every kilowatt hour. So, but if you're over 1,000, just figure you got a $100 discount. So if you know 22 cents at 1,000 kilowatts would be $220. But with a $100 discount, it drops it to 120. At 1,500, it's 1,500 times 22 cents, which would be $330, I guess, and then minus $100 would be $230.
Okay.
I mean, you know, just figure that 22 cents, whatever their base rate is, at 22 cents across there. You can take the base, roughly
Okay.
the base rate is at the 500. You can kind of get a rough idea.
But now Champions doesn't give you that discount. They
No.
just, so their calculation would be different.
Yeah. Well, theirs is still 15. You know, basically
Oh,
about
yeah.
15 and a half,
Yeah.
roughly,
Yeah.
across every kilowatt hour. You know,
So,
there's.
so how did Encore stack up? Did you look at Encore's compared to these two?
So Encore just delivers. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So you have the electric company that generates the electricity, and then you have Encore that takes it and delivers it.
Okay.
And then basically in North Richland Hills and most of the Metroplex, Encore does all the delivery here.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a few co-ops and stuff in little pockets around the Metroplex, but for the most part, you don't have a choice on delivery.
So you
When
can
you
tell
get-
my wife pays the electric bill. So we're writing electric bill to someone other than Encore, correct?
Yes, you'll write the electric bill to like Champion or
Gotcha.
JEXA, and
And
then
we're paying,
we're
paying Encore through this.
Yes, we're just, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's spelled out here. TD, delivery fee, $3.42 per month,
There you go.
and 4.4076 cents a kilowatt hour.
Gotcha. Okay.
Except that is subject to change without notice from Encore. Because I get my bill and they stick for their rate for 24 months from, say, Champion. That's the top half of the bill. Second half of the bill says Encore. And Encore has been going up and up and up. And I have no control over that.
Yeah, that's true.
So whatever they say there, Encore can change it with no notice. Just they change it, go up or down, whatever they want to do. The only ones that can really stick to it is Champions or whoever you signed with. They have to stick to their kilowatt hour rate.
Right,
So my bill's been going up because Encore's been killing me,
yeah.
and I have no choice.
Yeah, a lot of this comes from, you know, a year and a half ago when we had the,
Yeah.
you know, the Ice-mageddon, Snow-mageddon, Freeze-mageddon, whatever it was, you know, and they figured out the grid's in bad shape.
Yeah.
And so basically Encore is for us, is the grid. So if they're upgrading the grid, it's Encore, because the grid is the delivery mechanism.
Yeah. And you can't negotiate that.
No.
It is what it is. Yeah. So it sounds like the first thing you got to do is go back for 12 months and identify what your usage is for the last 12 months.
Yeah, and usually if you get regular bills or if you have a, you know, an online account, you can go back and usually they give you,
Yeah.
they usually graph that for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I just took my graph for the last 12 months and just kind of calculated it out here for an example.
Yeah.
Jeff, a couple of questions for you more so on logistics. So, great information, you're shopping for your new electric rate, and you want to make a switch to another provider. So you're Genexa and I want to go to Champion. These contracts auto-renew. I mean, you just, if you keep paying the bill.
That's another thing you gotta
So-
watch out for too.
Yeah.
They usually don't auto-renew to the same rate. They usually auto-renew to a
Yes.
default, which may be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Yes. How far in advance should somebody start shopping for a new rate? And I'm used to contracts in the work world.
Yeah.
Where you have to give a 90-day notice. There's an out clause, 90 days to non-renew. How many days in advance or weeks in advance or months in advance should you start shopping? And then, you know, obviously you got to switch providers. You don't want to be without electricity for a couple of days
Right.
on that switch. What kind of time frame, just in the general sense, would you give for somebody to start shopping and then make that change before that contract renews?
I would say the 30-day mark,
Okay.
you know. And it depends on how, you can, if you've not done it before, you may want to start looking at it ahead of time and everything. There is, basically, if you're in your last, and it's in the electricity fax label, but it's like the 30 days before the end of your contract, you can, change without the termination fee. But it's only like the last 30 days that you can change without a termination fee. So you can switch, before your other one runs out. You don't have to wait. The other one's not, they're gonna automatically move you to a default rate when your contract ends. So you're at 24 months and they're gonna move you to another default rate, which is probably not gonna be as good. And so you're not gonna be without electricity. So there should never be a problem with that.
And if you want to change, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have to tell your current lighter within the 30 days. You just sign up for another company, and they, in turn, as soon as they convert you over to them, I guess they notify your current
Yes.
that they're taking over. And if it's in that 30-day period, so you just basically sign up with somebody else. You don't have to tell them. They'll be told by the person who takes you over.
I've done it with only 2 weeks advance notice, so, yeah.
You can do it with 2 or 3 days. July was so volatile when I was looking at my electricity. I was down into the last 6 or 7 days when I asked the new company to do it like 2 days before my other one ran out. Just to make sure I had the buffer there.
Oh.
So but you can cut it real close. That's not a problem. You don't have to have a contract in place, in advance. You can do it pretty much on the last day. And even so, like I said, you'll move to a default rate and maybe pay a high rate for a couple of days before the switch change. That's probably worst case scenario.
That was really where my concern was, is if I was to notify Genexa, hey, at the end of September, I'm switching providers.
Yep.
We're like, okay, well, we'll just turn you off
Well, you don't. That's why you don't tell Jexa.
So that's the secret. You don't tell.
Yeah.
And to Walt's point, whoever you go to will
tell them.
change it.
Yeah.
I guess
And I have in the past been able to go back to my electricity company and say, I have looking at rates, but you're not competitive. And this year they did not move. It's like, that's it, sorry. But in the past years, I've had them actually, we have this other rate that's not published. Okay, well, you never know. Sometimes it's worth asking, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to tell them you're gonna move if they don't, but it's like, it's always worth asking.
I guess when you switch, they work out that they don't do it so early that you end up with a penalty. They work that out, right?
No, that's up to you. You need to look at the electricity fax label, make sure, but usually it's the right the last 30 days of your contract, you should be able to switch without any problem.
That's where you gotta read that notice that you showed us.
Yes.
It'll be in there, what the rules are.
You do want to look at these and.
Yeah. Or you can call them up on the phone and just ask the question.
Yeah. Then,
I'm like you though, I'd call them once to try to negotiate something. They said, nope, that's the rates.
Yeah.
Too bad, so sad.
and early termination fees can be anywhere. The company sets that, there's no regulation on it. Somebody that has a really cheap rate may have a very high termination rate.
Yeah.
Some of them are flat fees, like the Jackson Champion, they're 295 or 250, either one. Others are, like there's one I looked at, it was a 3-year contract. It was $20 for every month that was remaining on the contract, which means if you, it was like $600 if you did it after the first 6 months or something. It's very hefty penalties. So you always have to look at that. But if the rates drop, it may be worth the change. In my case, I'm burning about 15,000 kilowatts a year. So basically, that we'll say Jexa's at $300. What does that come out to be? Like if I can get a 2-cent drop, it'll pay for that $300 termination fee in the first year.
Yeah.
Now, when rates change, if you're rocking along there and the rates are whatever they are and the rates increase, are you locked into those on your contract, or?
Except for the delivery,
Okay.
that's one thing that's controlled by the Texas Utility Commission is the Encore. They have to go through the Texas Utility Commission to ask for a rate change, but they can get a rate change.
Yeah, there's no motion there.
But
What I like about this, so is you can sign up for a 12-month, 24-month period. All the companies offer different plans and different lengths. So you have to decide, do I want to go short-term or long-term? Of course, the long-term typically are better rates. Typically.
It depends on if the energy prices are going up or down too, though. And I mean, they play that game.
Yeah.
You know, if the rates are going up, you know, they're going to make the short term more economical because they want to
Yeah.
flip you into the, you know, the higher rate. You know, but if you know,
Have
so
you,
you never know.
have you seen in any of the aspects of the label, fax label, or seen this anywhere, that the providers tie their rates to fluctuate if there's certain market conditions?
There are. I did not go out and research that specifically, but I know there are companies out there that will, you know, tie their rates to whatever the average wholesale rate is, or whatever wholesale rate plus X or whatever.
Okay.
But I did not go out and look at for a fax label specifically on that though.
Okay.
I mean, that's what caught people at the Snowmageddon a year and a half ago. There was something tied to that, and the wholesale rate went crazy for that short period of time, and you know, in one sense, I'm sorry for them. The other sense is that's what they signed up for.
Yeah.
You know, so it's again, it's buyer beware a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me hit a couple other things because I know I'm running
That's
a
okay.
little long here.
We're good.
Solar panels and selling electricity back to the grid. So that's one thing you have to be careful of. If you got solar panels and you're producing a lot and you're selling it back to the grid, you have to be careful. Number one, not all contracts will buy your electricity. And most contracts now will only buy it back at a discounted rate, not the full rate. So there's some kind of funny things with that. But and again, in the electronics fax label, it'll tell you if they'll buy it back or not. And this particular one, I pulled, will JEXA purchase excess distributed renewable energy? And it says no. Now, that's on the discounted rate. However, on the other ones, it's yes. I mean, it changes from plan to plan. It's not by company. It's plan to plan where they'll change if they buy the solar back or whatever. And then there's a lot of new solar things that are coming into these plans where if you have EV vehicle, electric vehicle, then they will, they'll give you some discounts too. Of course, that's all going back to the marketing like we talked a while ago. They're doing all sorts of things like that. Oh, by the way, through the house here, this is the house in Latvia that a lot of the team went over there where it was completely off the grid, which is might be the way to go, but it's very difficult to go probably in our day and age.
So that's enough electricity to run his all his appliances.
Yeah.
Wow.
You see he's got a bunch of firewood and stuff piled up for the winter.
Yeah.
over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. So my daughter has solar panels and they put in a battery system, and batteries are huge, and they can run most of their house for a couple of days, and depending on how much sunshine, maybe a little bit longer. But I mean, it's to be off the grid is pretty wild and crazy to get there, and you can't do it with just the solar panels. You have to have some kind of battery system or something of that nature to regulate the electricity, because solar panels are not. I mean, it's unregulated. Depending on the amount of sunshine, it comes and goes. And then at night, what are you going to do? And let's see, and then they'll also talk about renewable energy. How much of the energy is green? So usually on the electronics fax label, they'll tell you how much energy. Like in JEXA, 25.2% renewable, and the state averages is 28. And then Champion was 16.4%. So I don't know how come their state average is different than the other state average. That was a little interesting. The other thing though is, you look at these companies and figure out what their rates are, from the website Power to Choose, but you have to go to their website and double check, because it changes and fluctuates so fast sometimes that it may not be the same on the that Power to Choose side. It changed so fast it may be delayed a day or two before they update that.
That's a good place to start.
But oh yeah, absolutely. It's to shop there and then go directly to the website.
Right.
I like your statement there about checking with the BBB.
I did. That was interesting because I went with a company that's not even on any of those websites. But the BBB had it rated high. It had a lot of survey responses and everything. So it was, and I was debating between it and Champion.
How did you find that company?
I don't know where I found it. I kept looking and looking and looking.
What company is it, if you don't mind?
APG&E.
APG&E.
So it's apge.com. I can't remember. I looked at it's funny. Like something power, gas, and electric. I can't remember what the A stands for now though. So that's it. So
Excellent.
great discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,